Torrin Collins has dominated the championship so far, winning 3 out of 4 races and breaking the track record in qualifying here at Edmonton. Will he be able to keep up the momentum?
Welcome to RAD Torque Raceway, everyone, as it is round number 3 of the Bridgestone CSBK season in 2025, race number 5 here in the Pro Supersport category, and it was a hotly contested qualification. As you see, number 71, Torrin Collins, chasing Andrew Van Winkle there. Collins would go on to set the track record, as there were plenty of fast bikes all the way around, and we know, Colin, that Collins has the pace.
Yeah, the conditions were just about ideal, and when you go shopping for those last couple of tenths, everything has to be just so, and that's what it's been like here. The track is clean, and the traction is good for our Bridgestones.
We get a look at the starting grid here to go around RAD Torque Raceway.
Yeah, important to remember, of the people who went under the lap record, one of them, Lang, actually was just slightly high on the dyno. He got penalized 1 position for that minor infraction, so he's on pole and row 2.
He had a 1:18.838 as we look further down the field. Justin Nabick, one of the talented locals here. Laurent La Liberté Girard, stepping up into the Pro Supersport category, has been impressive. Mac Wheel and Marco Souza round out the grid as we take a look around near the Edmonton Airport.
So this is a fairly straightforward layout, but it's probably the most conventional track we attend, and it's a weird situation. We're on the east end where all the people are. It's kind of stop and go, and you get a nice flowing section on the west end, which of course most of us never get to see.
Hidden in behind the trees, but still plenty of entertainment in those first 5 or 6 corners that everyone gets an opportunity to see. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
Thanks, Marshall. Round 3 started off strong as 4 Supersport riders managed to beat Elliot Vieira's lap record from last season here at RAD Torque Raceway in qualifying of the 2025 Bridgestone CSBK Championship. John Lang, Sebastian Tremblay, Andrew Van Winkle, and Torrin Collins surpassed Vieira's previous time of 1 minute and 19.32 seconds, with Collins finishing first. So far this season, Collins has been nearly unbeatable in the Supersport class of the 2025 Bridgestone CSBK Championship, and it looks as though the Alberta native may continue that streak, claiming pole position in the 3rd round here at RAD Torque Raceway. So far, he's won 3 of 4 races in this year's championship aboard his Suzuki GSX-R 750, and the last time Collins raced here in 2024 in Superbike, he finished 2nd in race 1 and won race 2 to break numerous records, partially thanks to his unique and dominant riding style. Collins says it feels really good to be at his home track that he grew up racing at, and that it suits his style, which he explains comes from his years of training in Europe. He also says he's hoping he can have a bit of a battle on the track with Van Winkle. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarah. As we get set to go here, 18 laps around RAD Torque Raceway, and we take a look to the Power Sports TO starting lights. They are out, and we're full throttle here at RAD Torque Raceway in Edmonton, Alberta. Sebastian Tremblay trying to track down Andrew Van Winkle, who takes the whole shot around. The outside looks Torrin Collins.
And explain to me how the guy with the least amount of torque at the front seems to always get the start these days. Amazing effort by Van Winkle, who's been a whole shot artist this season.
He is an incredible talent, but he is being tracked down by the talent in the Pro Supersport class so far throughout this season, as you see how low Torrin Collins gets there trying to track down Van Winkle.
Yeah, and this is Collins at his finest. He likes to go hunting, and he's hunting on one of his best friends.
And he's taking a look very early on here. No feeling out period between these two as Elliot Vieira backs up the field just a little bit, and Sebastian Tremblay trying to stay close as they head towards the start-finish straight for the first time.
So Vieira had a moment, and that slowed down everyone behind him, as you pointed out, and the person who's really suffering is Michel, because Michel has had a lot of pace lately, but he's already probably too far back to have a chance to win this thing.
You hear the crowd celebrating up front. The 2 Westerners, Andrew Van Winkle and Torrin Collins, will lead the pack as we head towards the kink for the first time, one of the unique parts of this RAD Torque Raceway.
In the background, if you were watching, John Lang is making up some ground. Another unfortunate start for him. Remember, a year ago, he was a star here, and he is looking for some breakthrough results. Has not been a good move from Kawasaki to Suzuki so far for the Lang program.
Last year when Torrin Collins was in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class, he was really aggressive around this part of the track. Here he is in Pro Supersport, and you can see the aggression remains.
So here we have a GSXR 600 followed by two 750s, slightly different spec, and of course the third of these three, which is trying to make a move for second, is Tremblay, who was the gold standard here, but this year Collins has become the man.
That was really good drive coming out of the corner by Sebastian Tremblay. Took a little bit of a look, but not daring enough, and early on to try and throw it down the inside as Collins now once again takes a different line, little peek there, and won't stab down inside.
And the good news is we know if Tremblay gets to show a wheel to Collins, all that means is Collins is going to come over Van Winkle so much harder as soon as he can.
Yeah, we understand the tendencies at this point in the season as we begin lap number 2 officially, as the start of the race a different place than the start-finish stripe here at RAD Tour.
And if we look just behind the leaders, we can see that Vieira has started to pull away just a little bit from Michel and Lang in that battle for fourth. Those are all people who expected to be in the battle for first.
As we see John Lang down in 6th, Laurent La Liberté Girard in 7th, Justin Napick 8th, Matt Reel in 9th, and Nathan Playford is rounding out the top 10 as of now, as Andrew Van Winkle has a battle on his hands just to hold off Collins.
Yeah, you can see his riding style is shown very well in that fourth turn, which is kind of a left-hand carousel after the big banked right-hand carousel right before that.
It is Andrew Van Winkle holding off Torrin Collins here. Early days at RAD Torque Raceway, but the Mountain View Motorsports rider is in control. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importation Seabo, Canadian Kawasaki Motors, and EBC Brakes and Clutches. Closed captioning for the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by MotorcycleCourse.com, Keen Truck Incorporated, and Revs for Rhett. Welcome back to RAD Torque Raceway, crossing the start-finish stripe as we begin lap number 4 of 18 as Andrew Van Winkle continues to hold off Torrin Collins. But it was during the break that you had a bit of a moment here as Van Winkle dips the toes onto the grass. Colin, how on earth did he stay on the bike?
Well, I assume he was watching Collins and Shubenacadie is when inspired by some of that riding. And the key, of course, there, when you realize you're going to run just wide, is stay on the throttle, let the bike drive its way back out. But, of course, there's a lip between the dirt, the grass, and the asphalt, and that's the risk that it catches the front wheel and flicks you back over.
Is there any element, perhaps, of trying to push the bike that hard because you know that Collins is all over your rear tire?
Well, the good news is that is a motivator, absolutely, having a guy who probably is now considered to be the fastest rider in Canadian road racing on your tail. And whether that's fair to Superbike racer Ben Young or not, I don't know. But Collins is the man attracting the most attention, and Van Winkle is on an allegedly inferior motorcycle. But got to mention, John Lang has now climbed up to the top of that battle for fourth.
Yeah, and Sebastian Tremblay falling off the pace here, as you can see these front two separating themselves. Van Winkle and Collins setting the tone in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's a lot of time they've made up from Tremblay. And remember when we were here last year, Tremblay struggled. He was injured and he was competitive but not where he wanted to be. Oh, problems for Tremblay.
No, Sebastian Tremblay, no wonder he was falling off the pace. Something's gone dramatically wrong right now as he pulls down into the pits.
Let me help explain this. This is sprint racing, not endurance racing, so anything involving the pits is a disaster.
That is a bad look for Sebastian Tremblay as he was falling off at about a 10th per lap over the last 2 or 3 laps from this front two, but now down into the pit. So John Lang jumps up into 3rd position, Alex Michel up into 4th, and Elliot Vieira rounds out our top 5.
We like to joke about Collins and his dismissive view of how some people choose to ride their motorcycles, but Van Winkle is definitely just perfect in where he's placing the bike, and there we can see Tremblay's crew trying to figure out what's going on, and it looks like it's a throttle issue because he's looking at the dash and revving the engine.
Yeah, certainly trying to get that recalibrated and hopefully back out on the track, but looks like points are not coming the way of the ST Motorsports Suzuki here for Sebastian Tremblay in race number 1 as Andrew Van Winkle continues to battle against Torrin Collins and again holding off one of his Western friends, but Collins showing him plenty of wheel at various points on the track, just like right there.
Yeah, Collins is trying hard. Got to mention, too, that we were talking about Tremblay fading back. Almost for sure that was that mechanical problem interrupting the flow. It wasn't a pace issue because the track is in great shape. The conditions have been ideal the last couple of days, so we've seen some really great lap times. And you look here, Collins considering the inside, and boy, is that a move that nobody likes.
That is a tough spot, and now throws it down the inside. Van Winkle straightened up a little bit, and Van Winkle back on the throttle, trying to get as close as he possibly can going into the kink, and he won't be able to reclaim that position.
And I think that's Collins just saying, I've had enough of this. I need to get to the front, and I think I've got more pace than you do. So now the question is, can Van Winkle, with slightly less torque from that 600 compared to the 750 in front of him, does he have the pace when Collins goes hammer down?
And again, Collins on pole position with a 118.361, so he has been the quickest going in, but sat on the back of Van Winkle for several laps here until he made this move.
And the door was open, but I think what happened right here, Van Winkle's thinking, okay, he didn't try me in one, thank goodness. That's an ugly pass, but here, Collins is totally committed, and if anything had gone wrong, it would have gone wrong for Van Winkle because he was on the outside.
Well, even the daring nature to try and set it up over the bump down into turn number 1 to make sure he could get through in turn number 2. Torin Collins has no conscience when it comes to knowing exactly when and where to push the envelope, but he takes over. Top spot here at RAD Torque. Welcome back to RAD Torque Raceway as Torin Collins leads out in front of Andrew Van Winkle and John Lang. Suzuki 1-2-3 as it stands right now, and another new lap record here for Torin Collins. How was he able to do it?
And here we have that battle for fourth, and keep an eye. And yeah, look at Michel deciding, boy, this is an unpopular move, and he's a little wide.
Into turn number 1, John Lang cutting back underneath as Michel tries to climb on the throttle. They head towards the kink here. Elliot Vieira just in behind in 4th position. And Lang controls heading down into the roundabout, but a nice move that time by Alex Michel that just couldn't stick.
And I think what happened there is, Michel's been looking at that, as I said, unpopular to make that move on the brakes in turn 1, and when he made it, he maybe didn't have the room he expected, forced him to be a little careful on the exit, and Lang went perfect. Doors open for me in turn 2.
Kawasaki forcing the issue here. Number 99, Alex Michel on the Kawasaki as they head towards the back section of this track, and good pace from Elliot Vieira as well, holding court with these two.
We like to talk about the rules. Well, we have Lang on the ex-Ben Young Generation 2 American spec GSXR 750, then the old first generation Kawasaki ZX6R 636 Ninja, and then a Gen 2 bike in the Ducati 955 V-Twin Desmo. So completely different configurations and motorcycles, and in theory, Lang and particularly Vieira's bikes should have the mid-range that makes those bikes a little easier to run in the medium speed turns.
Meanwhile, you see there in the running order, Torin Collins in control out front as he continues to run in the low to mid 1 minute 18 seconds as John Lang on board looks back at Alex Michel, who thinks wisely not to throw it into turn 1 on this lap. Does take a little bit of a look here in turn 2.
Yeah, that was definitely the scene of the crime, and a little calmer this time. And if you're Vieira and you're 6th, you're thinking, I could be 4th at any moment.
Taking their shots whenever they see the opportunity. Andrew Van Winkle, by the way, sitting in 2nd right now, falling slightly off the pace of Torin Collins, back about 1.2 seconds as of right now. So trying to stick with Collins as he continues to run out in front, but a great battle here for 3rd position in the final step on the podium.
And good to see rising star Michel shopping, trying everything, looking for a way past Lang. And boy, so far this season, Michel has just shown so well, has attracted a lot of attention, is definitely a coming man. Interesting to see where he goes, what bike he chooses to ride next season.
And this time he does make the move, throws it inside. Can he make it stick? But the undercut comes back. Lang looks down for a second, whether it be at his dash or the front tire, but Alex Michel holds on some dramatically different lines here.
Yeah,
Colin.
Michel got a little off his rhythm, and I think he was lucky that Lang was distracted and let him in, and Lang has actually lost a little bit of ground there. So Michel freestyling it, a little more of a Collins approach in that section of the track.
As the GP Bikes Ducati of Elliot Vieira trying to latch onto the back once again and gain what he can, maybe take advantage of these two scrapping it out, but Alex Michel stretches his legs here since making the move.
Yeah, it is a very, very entertaining dice, and at the front, Collins seems to be secure, and we get to see him in the box out at the top left there, so we know he's a busy man. And there you see them going through the bus stop. The bus stop just got revamped, and the thought was that the track was going to be slower.
Does not appear to be so, as on that last lap, lap 12. Oh, no, we see somebody go down. And is that it is Andrew Van Winkle. The Mountain View Motorsport Suzuki, who was leading this race early on, was sitting in second position and running in behind Torrin Collins after Collins took the lead. What went wrong here?
There is a small bump on the entry, and you can see the seam, and I think he was just in the midst of trail braking and lost the front end and washed it out. The good news is those crashes don't hurt so much because you don't fall very far. There you can see he fell, you know, a foot maybe.
Incredible, as Andrew Van Winkle looked so dominant out in front, holding off Torrin Collins early on, and the slightest little bit right on the razor's edge of that front tire, and he loses it going into the corner, so he'll rejoin at this point. Looks like trying to get the bike back up, as through goes Lang, and now Michel and Vieira as well, and down into 5th position. We'll see how soon Van Winkle can rejoin.
Normally a crash like that, just a low side, frequently you can pick the bike back up, but the problem is it flipped over, and of course that proves that you're a star racer when your bike flips over and you can't keep riding it. We watch Grand Prix, their bikes always flip over.
A badge of honor. Not sure Andrew Van Winkle wanted to wear that one, but he is back on the bike and sitting in 6th position right now, as Alex Michel has made the move up into 2nd after Van Winkle falters, and Torrin Collins continues to lead here at RAD Torque Raceway. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importations T-Bow, Canadian Kawasaki Motors, and EBC Brakes and Clutches. Welcome back to Edmonton, Alberta, as we are on lap number 15 of 18. In the closing stages, you see Elliot Vieira there all over the back of John Lang, but Alex Michel continuing to push the pace out in front as he is up in 2nd, but Torrin Collins way out in front at this point in the race after Andrew Van Winkle fell off going into the back section and is now sitting down in 6th.
Yeah, Supersport, not normally a race of attrition, not normally mechanical issues, but we've had a crash with one of our front runners, and then Seb Tremblay, our reigning champion, had a mechanical issue, came into the pits, so has been a little more unpredictable than usual.
It is a unique set of circumstances, but at this point, back on lap number 14, a 27-second advantage for Torrin Collins ahead of 2nd position as he is way out in front of the field, but great battles throughout as we head towards the stripe once again here. In that last lap again, you see 119.468 for Collins.
Yeah, he's been easing off a couple of tenths a lap, and I mean, this is something that you have to learn when you have a lead, is how to manage it and how to be careful. And I think Collins has learned that probably revving the bike less and being just as aggressive in the turns is the way that works for him.
Something we haven't talked a lot about with Collins throughout this season, as we see the battle here between Vieira and John Lang, is racecraft. I mean, there hasn't had to be a lot of racecraft because he is just so ultra aggressive, Colin.
Well, the funny part in this discussion is he has all kinds of racecraft in his other job, which is in Moto America, where he's always seems to be in the thick of whatever the most crazy aggressive battle is. He's passing and repassing, and he has had some discussions with the series there about how he chooses to race. But you know, learning to win from the front is another skill you have to develop, and you know, we're hoping that all of this development leads to Collins having a breakthrough ride in the States that opens the door to more opportunities.
Absolutely. Sebastian Tremblay out of this race with what looked like a mechanical failure, and Andrew Van Winkle down and out, so Collins leads out in front. But here, fighting for 3rd position, John Lang up against Elliot Vieira. Vieira has taken that inside line several times over and now does dip down inside. Can he make it stick? Great drive coming out of the corner from Lang.
Yeah, he couldn't hang on in the exit and get on the throttle the way he wants to, and you know that's got to be frustrating because Vieira has been so patient on this, but Lang always seems to be able to do the math in reverse and get out in front when they exit.
Lang last year here at RAD Torque in the Pro Supersport category, a winner in race number 1, so you know he's comfortable around here, even though he has a change in machinery. As we get a great look at the battle.
And right here, ideally, Vieira could hold the lower line, but he drifts up as he picks up the throttle, and Lang says, door is open, here I come. And Lang was ready because he was very aggressive on the throttle pickup. And as you can see, not a huge amount of difference in the performance of those two very different in configuration motorcycles.
And happily, to the unknowing eyes of Alex Michel, is the battle between these two is actually slowing them down as they exchange positions back and forth, trying to fight for 3rd spot on the podium.
And Michel, who had to struggle his way into contention, and of course 2nd is definitely in contention, he has cleared track and has been making the most of it, and that's going to be helpful for the 2 more races we have later on. Remember, we're just past halfway in the season. This triple header is the crucial event in terms of establishing your point situation.
Such a unique spot to have the triple header, and John Lang, being a Westerner himself, understands as once again Vieira takes a look down the inside, can't make that one stick, and Lang again, great drive out of the corner.
Yeah, Lang is choosing to kind of leave that door open, and Vieira wants to go. We've seen it do it once, but so far Lang has had enough speed that it's not a problem. And there I think we caught just the briefest glimpse of Michel, not too far ahead of them, but yeah, there he is. Not too bad in our drone shot.
Well, and you notice as well, we are on the final lap. The white flag is out because way up the road is Torrin Collins on the Octagon Energy Services Suzuki as he continues to push the pace all the way to the end here in Edmonton.
And he jokes that he's not as hard on his boots as he used to be, but I think part of the left sole of his boot is starting to come off, so he's just about ready to finish this one and move on to the next set of boots.
Well, and coming out of the corner and wheeling it to pick up the drive as well, as he is certainly a one-speed kind of rider, is the number 71, Torrin Collins, as he heads in behind the tree line for the final time here in race number 1.
And speaking of one speed, we are missing Trevor Daly, who's been at the front of a lot of these races, but he did not make the trip out west, and we hope to see him at the final round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where he shone last year.
Looking forward to seeing the battle that Daly and the rest of the field, including Van Winkle, Sebastian Tremblay, and even Michel, Lang, Vieira, and the rest can bring for the remainder of the season. But the stranglehold on the top of the Pro Supersport category is firmly in the hands of the wheeling number 71. Torrin Collins wins at Rad Torque.
And I think he's been looking forward to this. He wanted a homecoming. He wanted a dominant performance. And I doubt he could have imagined it would be this significant a margin. A really impressive victory.
Incredible, as you see a little celebration wheelie there. Why not get the front wheel up and have some fun in the 4th Supersport win of this Bridgestone CSBK season?
And he doesn't have to worry about cutting the bus stop because the race is officially over.
As you see there, the final standings, Torrin Collins ahead of Alex Michel and John Lang on the box. Laurent Le Liberté Girard as well in 5th, just behind Elliot Vieira.
Yeah, top Yamaha. Justin Napick had that position early, so another strong ride for another rising French-Canadian star. Let's
head down and hear from our winner, Torrin Collins.
Congratulations on the win, Torrin. How does it feel to take race 1 here at Rad Torque Raceway?
Yeah, it feels amazing. I knew from the beginning it was going to be a hard race. Andrew's been running good all weekend. I didn't have a good start at all, so Tremblay almost got by me, but I went around the outside of him. And then, yeah, I followed Andrew for a bit. I was trying to figure out his line, see what he's doing different than me. We went a little back and forth, which is good. Me and him have been talking about battling all year, and this is our first time actually getting to battle, so it's a great battle with him. And then I got by him, and he was there. I was slowly pulling away, and then all of a sudden, he was gone. So I don't know what happened to him. I'm still trying to figure out what happened, but I hope he's okay if he did crash, and I'm really happy. Home round and lots of points.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Lots of points indeed as the win sees Collins' championship lead grow from 9 to 24 points over Andrew Van Winkle.
Over 100 points available, 4 more races in the series, 2 here and 2 at CTMP, but I think Collins is in the driver's seat, almost a race in hand.
Alex Michel, Elliot Vieira extremely close as well, as we continue to see in the Constructors' Championship Suzuki dominance this season.
Yeah, a good effort by Ducati, but of course they are not strength in numbers the way they were last season.
Torrin Collins goes on to victory. Top step, the cowboy hat there for John Lang, and Alex Michel taking home 2nd spot on the podium as well. It's the largest win in the history of the Pro Supersport class. Torrin Collins flies the Alberta flag here at Rad Torque.